In this short video, I'm going to read a brochure published by the Obesity Action Coalition for the purpose of illustrating two things: thinking aloud while reading and noticing claims in the text. In so doing, I'll be illustrating an instructional strategy that you, in turn, might use in your classroom with your students, with a text drawn from your curriculum. Before I get started, a couple of quick reminders. First, regarding thinking aloud. As you know, thinking aloud simply means verbalizing the thoughts and reactions that you, the reader, have streaming through your mind when you read a text like this one, or any text. The purpose of thinking aloud in front of your students is to reveal to them what's happening during reading in the mind of a proficient reader, making visible, or at least audible to them, the internal mental work that's a normal and important part of successful reading. Second, with regard to noticing claims in the text, as you've already learned earlier in this module, claims come in different shapes and sizes and can be explicit and directly stated or implied, meaning that it's left somewhat or entirely to the reader to infer them. In this brochure I'm about to read, we'll see a mix of explicit and implied claims. So here we go. Understanding Obesity, an educational resource provided by the Obesity Action Coalition. I'm reading the brochure's title and subtitle. It seems pretty straightforward. This looks like an informational brochure, I'm thinking. An educational resource, as it says, to provide facts and tips about obesity and good health. At the same time, as my eyes travel down the cover here, my attention is caught by these photographs. And since I'm on the lookout for claims, explicit ones but also implied ones, I do find myself lingering on the photographs, asking myself, do these maybe contain unstated claims of some kind? For one thing, I'm noticing that the photos seem to illustrate that obesity affects people of different ages and races and professions as well, because, well, we see people in the world doing things out in the park, for a health walk in the park, working out, or maybe here making a presentation at the office, and so forth. I'd say there's an implied claim here, I think, that in general obese people are active and hardworking, and that obese people can do exercise, can work out. That may not be a controversial claim, but it does seem to be an implied claim. Now, part of me is thinking, hold on, these are just decorative photographs of people doing things in the world. It's hard to prove that these are implied claims here. That's true, but part of me is also thinking that these photos were not just haphazardly thrown together. The brochure was designed to educate. So photographs on the cover probably chosen to convey a message of some kind. So I do think that on balance, yeah, I'm thinking there's an implied claim here that obesity affects all types of people, not just, again, one race or one class, one group, one age group, and obesity does not force people to be sedentary and not to exercise. Okay, I guess I'll see inside the brochure if these sorts of claims get more explicitly stated later on. Let's continue. I'm going to turn the page, continue reading. What is obesity? Obesity is a disease characterized by excessive body fat. People who are affected by obesity usually are affected by behavioral, genetic, and environmental factors that are difficult to control with dieting. Obesity increases the likelihood of certain diseases and other related health problems that can affect your quality of life and reduce your lifespan. There are definitely claims of fact here in this paragraph. I'm thinking one factual claim is that obesity here increases the likelihood of certain diseases. That's something I was aware of, and that's pretty widely accepted as a fact by many or most people. It's very broadly put here, like a general statement of fact. If it were more specifically stated, I'm thinking, for example, if it said that obesity, increases your risk of heart disease by 50% or your risk of diabetes by 20% or something like that, then the sentence would look more like an assertion of an arguable, specific claim of fact, and less like a statement of common knowledge, which is what it looks like right now. What else am I noticing? Well, as I reread these sentences, I'm also struck by the focus on obesity as a disease, right? Not as a choice or a bad habit of some kind. and the way that people who are obese here are characterized here in this paragraph, right, as suffering from the disease, as being afflicted by the disease, something external to them in a sense that affects them through these factors that are listed, behavioral, genetic, and environmental factors. So that's a bit different than just a simple factual claim, I'm thinking. A really simple factual claim could be something like, the number of Americans who fit some definition of obesity. In fact, I'm seeing below here, my eyes are skipping ahead to the next paragraph where it says it's estimated that more than 93 million Americans are affected by obesity. But here in this paragraph, we're also getting more of a perspective on personal responsibility, or who's to blame, kind of. And the implied big claim behind this paragraph, I'd say, is that obese people are not to blame for obesity, because it is this disease that affects them. Reading on, I'll next turn to who is affected. Obesity is a serious health epidemic that affects 1 in 3 Americans. It is estimated that more than 93 million Americans are affected by obesity, with that number predicted to climb to 120 million in the next 5 years. So more claims of fact I'm noticing. And that last part, which says that the number of affected people is expected to climb to 120 million in the next 5 years, that catches my eye because it's an explicit claim, and it's a nice example of an explicit claim of fact that is arguable, right? It's a prediction about the future, and it's based on analysis of recent historical trend lines and current trends, but it's no doubt also based on all sorts of assumptions about what will continue in the future. Okay, I'll pause here, but as I come to the end of this page of the brochure, I'm seeing that even in a text very focused on scientific content, there are both explicit claims, many of those explicit factual claims, but also many implied claims as well.